Good evening and welcome back to another review, and today we're going to be looking at something that was requested by a YouTube viewer who kept putting a comment in my comment section of previous videos asking for whether I had a Vax Mach Zen, because it was his favourite cleaner and he loved them to pieces. And I said, yes, I have got a Vax Mach Zen, and it's upstairs in its box and hasn't been pulled out for quite some time. And he said, would you do a review of it and get it down again? So I said, yes, I will do it sometime in the future. So he put another comment on, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and said, you still haven't done this Vax Mach Zen review, any chance you can do it anytime soon? So I thought, well, okay, I need to just get those Dyson handheld reviews out the way, and I shall do it in the next couple of weeks. So here it is. I've got it all down, out of the from upstairs. Got it all out of its box, because we're not sort of doing another unboxing of this. I know I keep it in its box to keep it looking meticulously new. It doesn't get used, this doesn't. It was something I bought on a whim. Probably, oh, crike. How long ago did I buy this? I mean, this goes back now to before the EU very first brought the new regulations in, so this is probably about a 2013 machine. So I'd imagine it's coming on for 5 years old now, this is. And as I say, it's been brought out for a review a long time ago. I did it in 2014. And that review, I deleted it quite some time ago because I intended to redo it and forgot all about it. So really it was due to be done again anyway, but this was from Argos, if I remember rightly, and when I bought it, it was I think it was about £99.99 at the time. Now when these came out, they were, there goes the cat again. She always, every time I do a vacuum cleaner video, she doesn't like it because she knows this is going to be coming on a bit later. She's off. So anyway, yes. This has had several reincarnations throughout its life. I think it started off with being red and grey, orange maybe, but it was the machine that James Dyson sued Vax over, the Vax Mach Zen was, because he felt that it looked too similar to the, I think it was the DC-02, one of his very earliest cylinder cleaners. And when you look at the shape of the handle and the cyclone unit on it, indeed it does look very similar to the DC-02. Or it could have been the DC-05. It was one of those very early canister models that Dyson did, and he said that the original Mach Zen infringed the patents. So I think Vax had to make some modifications to it. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of it, but this was the model that he took objection to. Now, I mean, James Dyson has sued Hoover before, I think, over a multi-cyclionic cleaner they brought out in about the year 2000. He's had run-ins with other companies who've been trying to copy his patents. So, you know, at the end of the day, he thought up the ideas of multi-cyclonic and cyclonic cleaners originally, and everybody else copied him. When he first started out, he was laughed all the way, you know, he was just laughed at by Hoover and all these other companies for saying, oh, your design will never work, people don't want a bagless cleaner. And we know what happened from there. Dyson took over the vacuum cleaner market, didn't he? And then everyone else copies him. They copy Dyson's now, so bagless is the way it goes. So this machine, as I say, it was on promotion in Argos, and I thought, well, £99.99, I might as well have one for that price. And I got it home and tried it out, and I thought, it's very bulky, is this? And as cylinder cleaners go, it's very heavy. It's one of the heaviest cylinder cleaners I've ever had, and it's rather cumbersome to carry upstairs. And I decided really I would just keep it for the collection. I wasn't in the habit of taking things back to Argos unless I thought they were really dire. I have had a few Vax cleaners in the past where they've been so bad that I've literally packed them back in the box and took them back to Argos the following day and said it's totally unsuitable. You know, it doesn't work properly, blah blah blah. And I thought, well, this does do its job. It does do the cleaning. And I think, you know, because this was a controversial cleaner at one point, it's worth keeping in the collection because of its history. And it was one of these cleaners that stirred up a load of problems, especially with Dyson. So this is the Zen Pet 2, the Mach Zen 2 it says on the side, and it's the Pet one, which means that it comes with the turbo tool, the full-size turbo brush, and it came with the standard floor nozzle. Now I was looking at this floor nozzle before I get the camera off, and we'll have a closer look in, as I normally do. I looked at this nozzle when I got it out of the box tonight, and I thought, well, this nozzle is exactly the same as the floor nozzle that we use on our Henry at work. Now, where I work as a cleaner, and I clean, I'm not going to say exactly where it is that I do it, but I clean in the public sector building. And the cleaners that we use are pneumatic PSP 180s, which are like a blue version of a Henry, but it looks more like a James, if you know what I mean. It doesn't have the cord rewind on the top, you have to manually rewind it round his hat. It's very much like a James, but it's like in a blue colour, and it has the face on. And it basically has the modern technology inside it, but it has one of these type of floor heads. Now if I bring this up, this, I do believe, is a Vesselwerk design, and unlike a normal Henry, which has the bristles on the back and the front, this PSP 180 that we've got only has them along the front here, and only has a squeegee on the back, and it has the roller. And obviously when you press your button down here, you get the brushes coming out of the front, but not the rear. And to be honest, we find this floor head at work pretty terrible for use on hard floors. It judders across the carpet tiles, and it makes a terrible noise when you drag it across the hard floors. It's a nightmare to use, to be honest. We wish that pneumatic could go back to using the older style heads without these wheels on the back. For commercial use they should just have the older style. But anyway, this Vax does come with this type of floor head. I mean, it's okay for domestic use, but it's got the plastic sole plate on, as you see. And we'll have a closer look at the floor turbo brush in a short while. But that basically was the straight suction nozzle that you got with it, which wasn't bad, I suppose, for a cleaner that was only $99.99, but originally I think it starts off at $250, but people wouldn't pay that, so it was always on promotion. And then I think shortly after that, I think they probably discontinued it, although I'm not sure. I think that guy that made the comment will probably know more about Vax Mach Zens than I do, but let's get the camera down and have another look at it now in closer detail. Because I do like to have a bit of a waffle on before I do the close-ups. So this cleaner, as I say, it's the Bagless multi-cyclionic, which means that it did effectively keep the filter cleaner than if you had, say, the Vax Power range at the time, which was another cylinder. So you had the Power 6, Power 7, Power 5, and they were very single cyclonic separators, and they used to get dirty the filters quite quick. They used the same sort of design as what the Shark uses, you know, a single cyclone with a big sponge filter, and the sponge filter is the one that is depended upon to absorb all the dust. But on this machine it's more a multi-cyclonic design, and we'll have a look at the bin in due course. So first of all, we'll have a look at the handle and the accessories that you got with it, and what you'd notice is that this design had the accessories built onto a caddy which was built onto the handle. So you got your removable caddy, which you could store on the top of the handle here, and inside here you had a crevice tool which was very, very short and stubby. This is very, very similar to what you get in a Miele, in the Miele cylinders. It's about the same sort of size, and it has a bit of a cutout in the top there so that it doesn't stop all the suction when you put it down on a hard surface. So that was what fitted into here. If I can just get it back in. Come on. They were a little bit fiddly to get in and out, to be honest. I'm just trying to do it here with one hand. I got it in before. I can't understand why I can't get it in again now. It probably goes in the other way. There we go, it does that. And then in the other side we had a dusting brush which you could pull out like so. And this was a really rather good, this dusting brush. It had a nice, what looks like horsehair bristles on it. It wasn't your cheap tap that usually comes on a cheap Vax which has plastic bristles. This was quite a good quality dusting brush. and you could remove the dusting brush off it. I can't do it here with just one hand, but you could basically remove that brush off and it would form the upholstery tool. And it had a twistable, again it's a bit difficult to do with one hand here, but it had you could twist it round to various different angles using the twistable neck. Let's get it back in again, and then we could slot it back. They were very fiddly. I can't get it back in with one hand, we'll have to just leave it over here. That's how fiddly they were. Just pick those up. So basically, you know, you could have the caddy on there, or you could take it off. And I would prefer to use it without that on, because I just found it would get in the way. So that was the tool caddy. And then you add your very sort of Miele-esque there handle with the hose. The hose was swivelling at this end, but it didn't swivel down at the bottom end, so it was a little bit more likely to get kinked. The hose was probably about 1.8 metres long, so it's not the longest of hoses on this machine. And then we had the extendable telescopic pole. There wasn't a click fit button here, it just pushed in friction fit. The telescopic pole went down here, which is, again, it's a lightweight, I think this is aluminium. It's not a heavy one, so it's quite light. And that ended up down here with the turbo tool. Now if I just, let's just take it off. Now this is rather a similar sort of a turbo brush to what you get on the pneumatic Henry. You know, when you've got the aero brush tool. It's a 32mm push fit. It's not a click fit. It has the two wheels on the back, and like the one on the Henry, it has a little clean out port here, which you can just open up like so, and then you can see your turbine inside there for cleaning. Again, very similar to the one on the Henry. From the underside you've got your miniature diameter brush roll with a chevron design of bristles on there. Before the video I did stick a little bit of grease on these little wheels on the front, because if I remember rightly, the last time I used this it was terrible. It was really noisy on carpet, so I put a bit of grease on the wheels just to quieten it down, because undoubtedly I'll be pushing this round towards the end. So there we go, that was the full-size turbo brush. And the machine, from what I can remember, did have the power to drive it well as well. So there's that. So now we get on to the main unit. I've already showed you the floor head there as well, the straight suction head. This, as I say, is a very, very large unit. It's very, very heavy to pick up and lug about. You can either pick it up from this handle, or you could pick it up from that handle. Bearing in mind, though, that was the handle for the actual bin. The bin was, you could take it off by pressing this grey button and lifting the whole thing off like so. And we had a very large capacity. I mean, this is absolutely massive, this bin. If I compare it to the Dyson here, and you look at the difference in size between those two bins, you can see just how big that is. It is a huge bin. It really is big. It's probably bigger than the big ball animals bin as well. If I, yeah, it is. It's much bigger. So you can see just how large and bulky this was. It was a machine really for quite big houses, I'd say. So then we had the hose would come in at the front here using this detachable. I mean, this could have been configured here really. I mean, they could have put a power takeoff socket there for a power head, couldn't they? I wonder if they did in some countries have a power head on these, which might explain why it didn't have any swivel at this end of the hose. But it looks like the sort of thing, you know, where you've put it in one way round where they could have had a power head, doesn't it? But anyway, that pushed on there. And then very reminiscent of the Dyson design as well, you have the hose that runs around the side and inside here. And that basically came into this port here, where your dirt came into the bin. This here was your suction port from the motor. So that would take out the pre-filtered air, which was pre-filtered by the pre-motor filter in here. And then it would go through the motor and it would come out of the exhaust filter. Now the exhaust filter on this was rather unusual in that it was underneath. And there we can see the stock label. So let's just, while we've got this upside down, come on, there we go. You can see the date on there is 0213, so it's a 2013 model this is. So it's about 5 years old now. It's an 1800 watt, is it? Oh, my eyesight's going, I'm getting old now and I can't quite read that. I think it's either 1600 or 1800. Made in China, as all Vaxes are. And then what we have here is like a little trapdoor, and we'd let me just focus this camera again. It does take its time. Come on, focus. There we go, it's finally done it. So this trapdoor, you'd pull your little fingers onto those two little things, push them in, and remove it, and then you'd have inside your exhaust filter. And you can see from the dirt on there just how much this machine's been used. It hasn't basically, that's just a little bit from when I did the last demo, I think, and test. So you'd have a proper full-size pleated HEPA filter there. So the filtration on the machine was rather good. And then that just... I'm going to struggle with this again, aren't I? How did this go in? Ah, that's it. It only goes in one way around, and that has to be vertical so that it fits into that groove there. So basically it was touted for being a very quiet machine in use, so it had a lot of silencing behind the motor. The filter was locked in there, and then it came out of the back, so it was actually quite a quiet machine in use. So that was the main unit there, and you've got your cable here, and I think that was about standard 7 metre long cable in grey, and you had your cable rewind, which is rather weak now and doesn't pull the cable in very well. I'm pressing that and it's not going in. As most cylinders do when they get older, it gets a little bit slow. Then you've got an on-off switch here on the back, and that's the exhaust vents on the back. Two large wheels on the side with rubber coated, I think, yeah, that's what they are. And then you add a caster underneath there. So the bin, this, as I say, as I've just shown, was rather a large capacity. Now what I'm going to do is remove the top. So in order to do that, we just have to twist it, which I've had to use 2 hands for, to the one side like that, and then lift it off. And there's the inside of the lid. That's the suction relief valve there, so if it got blocked, you'd hear that hissing away. And you can just see it in there. And then you had your pre-motor filter here, which was a large, thick sponge affair, which most Vaxes now seem to have, these sponge filters. And then what we had underneath was the multi-cyclionic separator. And on this machine it was actually rather effective from what I understand, and I could see that it would be, and there you can see the daylight there through the bottom, and that basically goes down into the fine dust tube in the bottom, which is that. So it is very, very similar to like a multi-cyclionic, isn't it? And to all extents and purposes, you wouldn't have to clean this filter as often as you would with, say, the Vax Power 7 at the time. So that fits back in there. And then that goes on like so. And then I believe to drop the bin, what we'd have to do is get that little button there and press it. And then, oh, there's a little bit of dust in it, look. And that would drop open, and then you could see your fine dust tube there. Okay, and there's your shroud that you had to keep clean. I believe you could remove the entire thing by taking the filter off, and then all this would lift out or drop down from the bottom, but it would disassemble quite easily. So there we go, that's the bin design there. So there we go, that's the Mach Zen. So we've had a little quick overview of it. Now what I'll do in the last sort of 10 minutes is we will turn it on and give it a push round. I'm not putting test dirt down for this machine because I don't want to have the game of cleaning it all out again after before I take it upstairs. It's not a machine that's sold anymore. It does sometimes appear on eBay, but I don't think they are particularly bad machines, so it's not as if I wouldn't recommend them, but I can't say for certain what the long-term reliability of this is because I've hardly used it. But I do know here that this could cause an issue with being non-flexing there, and these have been known to, when you pull them, they tend to kink on these joints here. They're not particularly crush proof, these hoses, so I think that could be an issue, is that hose there could start kinking on this joint. That I could see a problem. As I say, the turbo brush wheels on there were rather noisy. They needed some lubrication. So let's plug it in, and we'll put the camera up on the top and we'll have a go around with it. Right. I'll also see what the wattage it draws is as well on my little wattage meter. Like most multi-cyclionic cleaners of the time, this didn't have adjustable suction. You had to use the suction release valve on the handle. And according to the voltmeter, the watt meter, it's drawing 1425 watts. So it's actually not that energy inefficient. I think it must be rated at 1600 watts max then, for it to be drawing 1400. Right then, I'll put the turbo brush on. So what we'll do round the front part of the room with the straight suction head on and see how much pull it has down onto the carpet. It's a bit quieter with that head on as well. It's always noisy with turbo. It's not too bad though. It's not a noisy turbo brush really, that isn't. Just turn the camera around. It's just like using the one at work. It runs exactly the same on carpet. Well, it's actually better on this one because it's a longer pile carpet. But it does have some good pull down. So there we go, that's not too bad at all actually. That floor head actually isn't too bad in this room. It's not that hard to push, which is pretty good. Let's just have a look at the bin there. You can see a bit of cat hair it's picked up. And it really, you can hear me talking over the noise it's making. It says it's 70% quieter than a conventional cylinder. I wouldn't have said it was particularly 70% quieter, but it says it's got 350 air watts, which I do struggle to believe that. Let's just test the suction on my hand. There we go, yeah, so that has picked up a little bit of cat on. I vacuumed in here earlier on today as well. Look at that. So that goes to show that you do need to use a mains power cleaner in addition to because I used the V8 earlier, which is over there, and I gave it a quick whip round in here with that, but obviously the cat's been in all afternoon when I've been at work, so she often rolls around on the floor, which accounts for all this cat hair. But for there to be a bit of fine dust as well, it just goes to show that you do need to supplement the Dyson, the hand sticks, with a mains power, just to pull the really deep down dirt out. But yes, this Vax Mach Zen, apart from the noise from the turbo brush, it's actually a very quiet machine. But that familiar sound, I know you hear it on every video. It's me running out of time. My videos are always about half an hour long because my camera stops recording at 30 minutes. So there we go. That's another little look back there at the Vax Mach Zen Pet 2. Not a bad machine for the money. Okay, so we'll see you again on the next video. Bye for now.